I'd like to call my colleagues' attention to an issue that has affected many families in Iowa and throughout the country. And that issue is the cost of prescription drugs. The cost of prescription drugs is an issue that comes up at almost every Q&A I hold with Iowans at my annual 99 county meetings. During the last Easter break, just completed, I did 20 of those 99 counties. In the last 2 months, I've started a bipartisan investigation with my colleague, Ranking Member Wyden of the Finance Committee, into the pricing of insulin. That investigation extends to insulin manufacturers and pharmacy benefit managers. We need to find out how manufacturers price their insulin products. And we need to find out if pharmacy benefit managers are negotiating the lowest drug price possible from manufacturers on behalf of insurance plans. This isn't my first drug pricing investigation. In recent years, I've investigated Gilead's pricing of hepatitis drugs, hepatitis C drugs. The names of those drugs are Sovaldi and Harvoni. I've been investigating Mylan's EpiPen price increase. And let me tell you, oversight by Congress doing our constitutional job does accomplish things. I said it before, and I'll say it again. And you can't say it too often. Congress has a constitutional responsibility to engage in robust and aggressive oversight of the federal government and its programs. My EpiPen investigation is a perfect example. Several years ago, I began to receive letters, phone calls, and emails from my constituents about the rapidly increasing and high price of EpiPen. In 2007, a pack of 2 EpiPens cost $100. By 2016, it had skyrocketed to over $600. And of course, anybody paying it or even anybody hearing that knows that to be a substantial price increase. So I wanted to find out what was happening and what could be done to fix this problem of dramatically increasing prices and maybe unwarranted prices. My investigative and policy focus soon turned to the Medicaid drug rebate program administered by the Center for Medicaid Services. The Medicaid drug rebate program is a contributing factor that has played a part in how much money the government and the taxpayers pay for some drugs, and as you'll find out, the waste of some taxpayers' money. Now, as a condition for participating in the program, drug companies have to pay a rebate to the federal government and the states for the drugs they offer. Now, generally speaking, the rebate dollar amount is contingent on whether the drug is considered a brand name drug or a generic drug. A brand name drug pays a rebate of the greater of 23.1% of the average manufacturer price, or the difference between that and the drug's best price. The rebate program and its amount, dollar amount, is raised if the average manufacturer price increased faster than the rate of inflation. A generic drug rebate is 13% of the average manufacturer's price. Now, very unfortunately, the rebate program has not worked as it was designed to work. Drug companies have been able to game the system by paying smaller rebates than they're supposed to, and of course, the taxpayer foots the bill. EpiPen is a perfect example of this gaming of the system. This is how the scheme works. Mylan Company classified the EpiPen as a generic under the Medicaid drug rebate program rather than a brand name drug. After I asked CMS about that classification, they told me the EpiPen should not have been classified as a generic. Of course, because of this incorrect classification, Mylan only had to pay 13% rebate instead of the 23.1% rebate. That means less money was returned by the company to the federal taxpayers and the state's taxpayers. According to CMS, from 2011 to 2015, total Medicaid spending on EpiPen was $960 million. After rebates, net Medicaid spending was still approximately $797 million. Medicare spending, as opposed to Medicaid spending on EpiPen under those same years, was $335 million. And taxpayers and the state's taxpayers were on the hook for these exorbitant overpayments for the better part of 10 years. When I saw what was happening, I asked the Health and Human Services Inspector General to look into these practices. Based on data already on file, the Inspector General was able to calculate the potential loss rebate value dating back to 2006. The Inspector General found that the taxpayers may have overpaid for the EpiPen by as much as $1,027 million over a 10-year period of time because of the incorrect classification. Eventually, Mylan settled a False Claims Act case with the Obama administration Justice Department for $465 million. Now, that $465 million is a far cry from how much Mylan got from the taxpayers while it was pulling off this charade, and $800 million less, in other words. Upon learning of the settlement, I expressed my extreme disappointment to the Justice Department. It just didn't seem the taxpayers had been made whole, and obviously they were not. According to Attorney General Miller of my state of Iowa, my home state received $1.5 million from the settlement. However, after repeated requests to justify how much that amount made Iowa whole, I have not received an answer yet. So not only did Mylan's steep price hike for one of the most widely needed drugs in this country hit families hard, it also hit the taxpayers' bottom line. We shouldn't have to depend on lawyers and depend upon lawsuits to get the taxpayers' monies back. Government agencies should be responsibly overseeing the program, any program that they're in charge of. During the course of my investigation, it became clear that CMS didn't believe that it had the legal authority to require drug companies to reclassify drugs and impose civil monetary penalties for incorrectly classifying drugs. Except for a few emails sent from CMS to Mylan's representatives questioning EpiPen classification, for years, CMS did nothing. In other words, CMS wasn't doing its job, and Mylan was taking advantage of it. The Inspector General has also stated that it lacked the legal authority to affirmatively pursue penalties for the submission of inaccurate drug classification data. So, as a result, Mylan was able to escape accountability for a long time, costing taxpayers billions of dollars. That's just one case. Other drug manufacturers are gaming the system as well. In a December 2017 report, the Inspector General found that 885 drugs may have been potentially misclassified. Specifically, the Inspector General found that from 2012 to 16, Medicaid may have lost $1.3 billion in rebates for 10, just 10, potentially misclassified drugs with the highest total of reimbursement. It's clear that the law needed to change to provide much needed clarity on who has what authorities and to hold the government as well as the private sector accountable. As a result of the findings in my EpiPen investigation, I, along with my colleague Senator Wyden, drafted and Congress later passed the Right Rebate Act. And that all happened just a short period of time ago. The act, which was passed with strong bipartisan support, fixes the problem that I identified through my investigation. It closes the loophole that has allowed pharmaceutical manufacturers to misclassify their drugs and overcharge the taxpayers by billions of dollars. The bill also provides the HHS Secretary the authority to require drug manufacturers to reclassify their drugs and impose civil monetary penalties when drugs are knowingly misclassified. It provides HHS with additional authorities to monitor drug manufacturers who participate in the Medicaid drug rebate program. And the legislation also provides the states the ability to recover incorrect rebate amounts. And finally, the bill imposes reporting and transparency requirements on HHS. Examples of additional reporting: requires the Secretary to submit a report to Congress on an annual basis that describes four things. One, the covered drugs that have been misclassified, the steps taken to reclassify the drugs, the actions that the Secretary has taken to ensure the payment of any rebate amounts which were unpaid, and four, an accounting of how many funds have been used for oversight and enforcement of this new law. All of these fixes and updates are now in place because my constituents contacted me about the real-world problems that they were paying for, and all of that affecting their health as well as their wallets. I then instructed my staff to investigate the problem. They acquired the evidence, uncovered the facts. As you uncovered the facts, you obviously exposed the holes in the existing law. Then I instructed my policy staff to take those findings to plug the holes and solve the problem with new legislation, which is now law. That's exactly the purpose of oversight. That's exactly how oversight is done. Mr. President, pretty simply, this isn't like reinventing the wheel every time. This is Oversight 101. Oversight means to bring transparency, and transparency is meant to bring accountability. Oversight works plain and simple. And the Right Rebate Act that Senator Wyden and I got passed is proof of oversight working. I yield the floor and suggest the absence of a quorum.